Welcome in Sunday Night Roundtable, brought to you by BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Go over and check us out. Get yourself a premium membership today. We appreciate you tuning in. Titans fall 24-27 to the Steelers. And the Steelers remain unbeaten. The Titans fall to 5-1 because we have a kicker who cannot fucking kick. And I'm done with it. I'm done with third down defense that is crap, and I'm done with kickers that can't kick. The Titans should have won this game. The Titans should not have played like ass on defense in the first half. We should be 6-0 right now, but the Titans are not 6-0 because they can't stop third down to save their life. Gentlemen, please hop in before I throw this computer away.
No, throw away. It might be good entertainment from what just happened. I was wondering how we were going to react to all this, and I got to tell you, I'm very pleased that you started off with this. Thank you, Lebowski.
I'm pissed off. Part of me wants to be excited that the Titans showed grit at the end and had a chance to win, and I'll get into that later in the show because I don't feel like this is a team that is down and out by any means going down the stretch. But I don't like the fact that this team had to claw back. It wasn't as if the Titans had fluke injuries or fluke turnovers or something like that to where they had to crawl back from. They had to claw back from a defense that couldn't stop a nosebleed in the first half. Now, I was happy to see that Jayon Brown got it together in the second half, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I didn't want to see that. This is a team that should legitimately be 6-0. And unfortunately, they have a kicker that misses under 50, which doesn't make sense. And they have a defense that just absolutely needs a hope and a prayer to stop anything on third down.
So the only thing I'm going to jump in there with is, a kicker between them being 6-0. I agree. Got to make that kick kind of thing. It was definitely within range, but at the same time, like you said, putting it on the kicker, that's a team thing. And it's one of those that the Titans clawed back, but we talked about it on the halftime show. Don't put yourself in that situation where you're down 17 at halftime where you're having to claw back, because otherwise that's not close. The Titans completely outplayed the Steelers by changing their game plan and putting more pressure on Ben in that second half. But why did it take the entire first half? Cool, I'm down for halftime adjustments, but the complete difference and dichotomy of how you're going to attack that Steelers offense needing a halftime, that makes absolutely no sense. So I think yes, applaud the Titans, applaud the fact that they were able to fight back and it came down to that last drive. Because frankly, if you came into this week and said, hey, they're going to have the ball on offense going against that defense down 3 on a final drive, I think you would take that. They're two great teams and things kind of fall where they may. But how it actually played out does not. It's one of those things. Stop being the underdog if you're the Titans. Stop having that where you have to fight back and you're going against the big bad Steelers. You want to be an elite team? Be an elite team. Tired of this. Like you said, stop. I'm tired of this whole mentality where you have to be, oh, well, they gave a great effort. Be the better team.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, those adjustments you talked about, like what were they adjusting to? Because they kept giving up like 16-play, 10-minute drives in the first half. Well, the Steelers got the ball with 10 minutes left in the game and proceeded to go 16 plays, take up 7.5 minutes a clock in the fourth quarter. So was the defense even that much better? In the first half, there were so many chances.
The defense was so much better in the second half.
Was it though? I mean, they got a few more.
Was there? They came up with tackles. They were
hang on.
Bad angles. They were better in the second half.
Hang on. In the first half, they had like 5 tries at least with the ball being batted around in the air that they couldn't come up with it, or a forced fumble on the ground, or Ben Roethlisberger pitching the ball backwards. Because he's under pressure one play. Like, they were pressuring Ben in the first half. They were forcing these things to happen in the first half, but they weren't capitalizing on any of those chances to get off the field, which led to the endless third downs. But they had those tipped balls and those forced fumbles. And then in the second half, they got the ball when they tipped it and when they forced those fumbles and whatever else happened. They were able to actually force those turnovers. And that, to me, was the only difference between the second half defense and the first half defense.
No. See, yes, it was great that they took advantage of those, and the first half would have been different if they could have taken advantage of those as well. But they were playing up and tighter in coverage, and they were making plays. They were coming downfield. They were hitting their holes. They weren't taking bad angles anymore. It was a much bit different defense in the second half than it was the first. I'm not saying it was otherworldly or it was still fantastic, because here's the thing. Even when this defense, as it currently sits, plays at the top of their potential, they still have holes and still have issues. Okay? We know that. They're not going to be 100% what they could be until they get to Adoree Jackson and things like that, until they get some reps in with those teams. I almost spilled my beer, sorry. But that's the thing, is that there was a lot more aggressive play, and there was a lot more coming downhill and attacking the Steelers instead of letting the Steelers. Here's the difference. The last couple of weeks, they played a whole bunch of umbrella, and let's let these defenses and these quarterbacks make a mistake, and we'll let them make the plays, and we'll play up. No, they switched it. This half, they did the same thing in the first half, and Ben just tore them apart. Second half, they didn't do that as much. They played a little more up and forced some plays, and Ben pressed a little bit and had to get things out even quicker than he did. And that's when your tip passes, because he's throwing these low passes and everything. So in my opinion, the defense was better in the second half.
It was better. They forced a punt in the second half. They didn't force a punt in the first half at all.
Right,
and putting right there, JG.
Some of those third downs, though, by the Steelers were just like a missed connection from Roethlisberger with his receiver, which credit to them for not having any mistakes at all in the first half. But in the second, I'm just saying, it wasn't all like the defense flipped a switch and was suddenly good. They did have much better play, but I mean, to that point, like, they weren't awful in the first half. They were millimeters away from making plays throughout the first half, but they just never were able to.
I think they're much better in the second half.
So real quick, I saw in the chat here, from Coach Matt, I think it was on Periscope, talking about it's easier to play defense when you're down 24. They were actually down 17, but at the same time, it's not easier because they came up with the interceptions. Here's the thing. It's easier to come up with run stops whenever you're down that much, because they're going to run the ball and try to get the clock running. To come up with those interceptions are still plays right there, because they weren't necessarily making those interceptions on plays where it was third and long every single time. So the Steelers knew they had to continue to get points, and that's respect for the Titans offense. But again, I just don't know how you come into this game and you say, we're going to play the same game plan that we played against Josh Allen and Gardner Minshew, and then come into this same game against Ben Roethlisberger. And look, Roethlisberger, he's not on the same level as a Brady or as a Patrick Mahomes, but you're not going to throw things at him that he hasn't seen. And he's okay taking those 5-yard passes down the field. And if you didn't think that before this year, if you turned on any game tape of this year, because Lord knows the national media have been talking about all this time about how he spent this time on the sideline, and he said, I'm a completely different quarterback now. I'm completely different. It's okay for me to take these 5-yard passes, where he's learned that kind of thing. And if you watch that, he's been okay with that. So to come in with this game plan and to take an entire half off from defense, because they essentially did, I don't know how you do that.
At one point, late or midway through the fourth, CBS broadcast, before they realized they were using Netscape to broadcast, they had mentioned that Roethlisberger had targeted 7 different receivers at some point in the game. He was spreading it all over the field, and at one point in the first half, I'm sorry, is it 10?
10. Do that man justice. 10.
Yeah, 10. I don't even know where to begin, because I just want this defense to be able to stop something and not put themselves in a position where the Titans had to claw all the way back and then depend on a kicker who's not dependable.
It's crazy, though. He's made the game-winning kicks every time he's been called upon this season, as undependable as he's been.
Yes, Gostkowski deserves his comeuppance on this one. He deserves his criticism and everything like that. But here's the thing. The Titans put him in a bad situation there late, and the uncharacteristic play by Tannehill, the pressure late. There was more players that contributed to that intentional grounding that backed them up, and then they had to force the late shot to Corey Davis down the sideline for the 3rd and 13. The Titans could have done Gostkowski a favor by getting it closer. I don't know if it would have done any good, but I'm just saying that if they went for the win still, and they were very aggressive in that mindset, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but they set themselves in a hole after a pretty good, decent drive of converting, staying on pace. They're now behind the sticks. So, yes, Gostkowski needs to make that kick. I agree 100%, but the Titans, everyone else, the whole situation didn't do many favors either.
No, certainly. And this is where I'll try to switch and be a little positive. If you want to take something positive out of this game, the Titans came out of the locker room and put a coherent game plan back together, played the game they wanted to play on offense, and clawed their way back into it. That, as a Titans fan, gives you hope that going down the stretch, maybe they can fix some of these problems on defense, use this loss as an anomaly, and keep powering forward. Because what I talked about this week on our podcast, what we talked about last week on the show, is that this Titans team shows a new look that Titans fans have not seen about. They're never truly out of the game. And I even have to watch myself. I put in our private chat at halftime that it was time to play video games. And of course, like the typical Titans fan, I fired up a video game. I had the game on my phone, turned it off like 30 seconds later, and put the game back on my TV because I'm like, what the hell am I doing? This is not Titans of old. I'm not giving up. I'm going to keep watching it. But I can't help but be frustrated. The Titans should be 6-0 right now, but I'll take the positivity of they're never truly out of it. And unfortunately, they just needed too perfect of a drive right there at the end, and it just wasn't perfect.
Did anyone else think that deep shot to Davis was going to be a touchdown? Because I did. Ryan's been so automatic throughout the season. I thought as soon as that ball was let loose, I thought that's a touchdown.
For sure.
I want to address this question from Max here. Here's the real question. Why not call a timeout in that situation? Well, last week, I mean, would you have criticized them? You can't go for it both ways because we praised Tannehill and Vrabel for letting them go last week and run the play without calling timeout, without spiking it to try to take advantage of the defense not maybe being ready and just like keep up with the groove they were in. And this was the same mentality here. And it was a good shot to the end zone. It was slightly out of the end zone reach, but if Davis had body control to get it in, I mean, they could have thrown a flag on that play. So
I got to watch the all 22 because there's another reason that they're saving that timeout is because on that play, that 3rd and 13, if that shot goes to the middle of the field with the few seconds left, they've got to save that timeout just in case so they can try to set up and don't have to rush up. I know obviously they can spike, but they don't know what's going to happen next. So they're saving that timeout because they know a field goal ties the game. And if for some reason they have a longer run to the middle of the field and it eats up some clock and they get tackled and they've got 4 or 5 seconds left, or it's down to where you don't think you can get to the line and spike the ball, that's why you save that timeout. So it's not I get it. You want to maybe talk about and have the great play, but what happens if he gets tackled in bounds? You don't even get a chance to your kicker to kick it. You've got to be able to let them try to develop a play and see what happens, because if it's in the middle of the field, you got to have that timeout just in case.
Well, it really comes back to that intentional grounding. It's one of those where when that intentional grounding happened, it changed their entire game plan.
Right.
Because whenever they get that intentional grounding, no longer are they playing for a touchdown. No longer are they in that situation where they are going to say, let's score, and then we just have to prevent them from scoring a touchdown. At that point, it became we're going to get this field goal, but we need to leave as little time on the clock as humanly possible to prevent them, who, yes, we have played a good defensive half, but let's not forget that, 45 minutes ago, they were walking up and down the field on us, where you need to be able to come up with a stop, not only to prevent them from getting a touchdown, but from preventing them from getting a field goal to win it. So that intentional grounding, look, I understand what Tannehill's doing, but it's again, and I'm not putting the game on Tannehill because I don't think he played a bad game, but it's one of those where you have built this incredibly small margin for error because of how you play defense, that it's impossible to think that they're going to win a ton of these games. And look, they're going to make the playoffs, but if you're talking about when they're going against the Pittsburghs again, because they may meet them again in the playoffs, when you're talking about the Ravens, when you're talking about the Chiefs, you can't be in that situation where it's completely offense, where the offense has to be perfect, because if the offense isn't going to be perfect every single day.
And that's ultimately my problem, is that the Titans defense left it to the offense to have to play an absolute perfect series in 2 minutes and under, and one mistake, and that is a mistake by Tannehill. And credit to the Steelers defense for getting pressure on him at the exact moment for him to have to pitch it out and eventually being a intentional grounding. But the defense put them in a position to where they had to absolutely not make a mistake. And then the mistake is compounded by a kicker missing. I usually have sympathy for kickers missing, except Gostowski has had the yips already this year. So it's frustrating. This team should be undefeated, but what I hope for this Tennessee Titans team is that they take this loss personally, and they should take it personally, and use this to build off of it and find a way to get in their own defense's ass and change some things. Because if you can't get off the field on third down, at one point midway through the second half, the Titans offense had been on the field for 81 seconds, and it was like 13 minutes in the second quarter. That's pathetic. So I want to throw things. I want to throw things right about now, but I'm stopping myself from throwing things.
Well, you hit a good point right there on the head, is that you talk about moving on, and that you can't let this week be a loss next week. And that's what you're talking about from a coaching standpoint, is you go into it and say, the first half was crap. We're going to learn from it. So we go into Monday, we're going to look at the film and say, what did we do wrong? And that's not just from a player standpoint, but also from a coaching standpoint. But you're also 5-1. You're 5-1, and you're in a great position in the division in the AFC to still go get that win. You may not be the number one seed, but here's the thing: only one team's getting that bye this year. Only one team is getting that bye. So at this point, you're not in a bad position, but you can't go then and look. Cincinnati is a real team. Cincinnati is not
They are a real team.
They ended up losing this game, but they're not just some pushover. They're not an easy win. They're going to be up for a fight. And yes, the Titans are a much better team. But if you go in there and you say, oh, you're still licking your wounds, you're still in that position where you got to go in there and say, hey, we're just going to walk over this team. This is a pseudo bye week. Guess what? You're going to be 5-2 in a hurry, and then you're assessing things. Then you're going in and having to deal with the Colts, who are right back in the division. You have to address this, move on, learn from it, and then get right back to saying, hey, we lost by 3 to a really good team. Let's go prove we're still one of the elite teams in the NFL.
Right.
Titans next 4, just real quick, at Bengals, home against the Bears, home against the Colts, at Baltimore. So not a light schedule coming up by any means. I mean, if you had to pick any of those 4 that might be the easier team, it's a coin flip between the Bengals and the Bears. But the Bears are another team that, on paper, they should be complete crap, and they're finding ways to get it done. I mean,
I hate the Bears.
Just I don't know. I'm gonna stop talking. Robert, go.
Well, I don't know what you do with some of the things on this team. I don't know what you do with Steven Gostowski. I don't know if you go to Tucker McCann now, because we thought that the kicker problems were fixed after, I guess, week 2, was it, where he was perfect. And then it's kind of reared its ugly head over and over again until now it actually cost them a game. So I'm not sure what you do there, but I am happy with I know we said no moral victories, but I'm happy that they came back and fought back, unlike one of the other elite teams in the NFL, the Packers, who last week against the Bucs just laid down and they looked terrible. And then what did they do? They came back this week and crushed the Texans. So hopefully we see a similar effort next week against the Bengals.
Vrabel's Titans won't die. And that's the thing, is that I know there's some question on the defense side of the ball, but the one thing you can't question this man is how he leads this team as a whole, and that the fact that they just have this grit and grind to them. They've seen it. I mean, this team could easily be just a 2-win team this year, right? But they found ways to win in those games. This was the first time that they just didn't complete the action of winning. And while it hurts, there are some positives going forward, that they found ways in the second half to show life and not just roll over it and play dead for the Steelers, who were up 24-7. I mean, they very easily could have done that, especially when they went 3-and-out. Was it 3-and-out on the first drive of the second half? So, I mean, there's some positives. You hate those moral victories. You hate those positives. You would have rather been 6-0, but they're 5-1 staring down this barrel this next 4 games coming up. You got to look to win the majority of those as well. So you can't dwell on the negatives. Yes, there may be some action or some decisions that have been made, a kicker possibly with his recent stint. And yes, the defense needs to continue what they did in this second half and be more aggressive and not be so worried about teams beating you over the top, and try to take it to them a little more. And I think that's going to help your pass rush out as well.
I lost the comment, but I believe it was by somebody named Sean, thinks that the struggles on defense are on Vrabel's shoulders. Are they?
I mean, I think from a standpoint of their lack, it's hard to argue a ton in this game, coming into this game with the plan that they had, that's not on Vrabel. I think he's a great, we talk about it, leader of men. He is a great leader of men. You can't argue that point. I don't think he's a bad coach by any stretch of the imagination. But we've talked about it a ton in the sense of they have opened themselves up for criticism because they don't have a defensive coordinator. So right, wrong, and different, would that change anything? I'm not sure, because I don't know how they've actually got it structured inside of the building, but they've definitely opened it up to that criticism by not having a defensive coordinator and going into this game. And because it kind of here's how it gets viewed whenever you come into it the way they did. You come into it, you do absolutely nothing on defense. Like literally the Steelers could have had as much troubles running on air in a 7-on-7 practice as they did in the first half. And then you start playing defense in the second half. So you don't have to be perfect in the first half, because I think any good team will adjust at halftime to get better based on what the team is doing. But to have no resistance whatsoever absolutely is an indictment on Vrabel and his defensive coaching staff.
And someone in the chat, Max, is asking, is it a lack of personnel or scheme? And I guess having Ty Smith on, Deontay Johnson isn't ideal. That's definitely a personnel thing. But like you're talking about getting more pressure on Big Ben, that's schematic.
Yeah. I want to get to this question here about Gostkowski again. And, the biggest bummer about the missed field goal is that it overshadows the Tannehill should have been 5th comeback drive. Goodbye for a second there, JB, I guess. Well, stay tuned. Oh, there he is. And the nice pass to A.J. Brown on a great route against Joe Hayden on that corner route towards the end of the game on the last drive. It's just too bad that the missed field goal, obviously you don't want to lose the game but is it time to cut Gostkowski? I don't think so. Tucker McCann is not going to be a better option. Like if you're worried about the uncertainty and undependability of your kicker, going to Tucker McCann is not going to solve that problem for you. So I think that you have to stick with Gostkowski for better or worse at this point. He's made game-winning field goals this season. That he missed one, it doesn't mean it's time to cut him.
Vincent on Twitter says, I'll still step on that stupid-ass towel. You know what? Good for you. The towel sucks. It's crap. Who has a towel? Who waves a towel? The terrible towel. Oh, my God, the terrible towel. What is it? The upset washcloth? The hell on. So anyways, Juju Smith said after the game that they're not just the best team in their division. They're the best team in the AFC. I kind of have to agree with him. I think the Steelers are the real fucking deal.
They're not the best team in the AFC. Do you have a question, JB?
Yeah, well, first I have to respond to that. The best team in the AFC. I mean, it's hard to put anybody. I thought he was really going to go over the top with the statement. He's like, we're not the best team in the division. We're the best team in the AFC. He didn't even go to the NFL. Like if you're going to make a statement, make a damn statement. What are you talking about at that point? It's kind of a statement because then you're talking about the Chiefs, but other than that, you're really talking about the Seahawks. So it's like he really said he was going to be this WWE statement. We ain't only the worst or the best in the division. We're the best in the AFC. Well, you really sold yourself short, man. But whatever.
We are an honest show here, and last week after we won, I said, "Is this the best team of all time?" Because at that point we were undefeated. You couldn't argue with it. We can definitively say the Titans are not the best team of all time. I wanted to let everybody know that before we move on.
I agree. So no, but JG did set me up here. I got a question. So let's say Gostkowski hits that field goal.
Okay.
Do you feel better about this game, the way it played out? If you're a Titans fan, and the way this played out, with Gostkowski missing that field goal and the Titans losing, or he makes it, it goes to overtime. Steelers get the ball, drive down the field, and score a touchdown and win.
I feel the same.
Really? I feel so much better the way it happened because it means the defense actually showed up to play. Because if the Steelers then march down the field and how it happened, everything that happened in that first half comes right back into the front of your mind. About
right. So it's not how you start, it's how you finish kind of thing is I guess what you're saying. And I get that for sure. But I think, I don't know. I still think they clawed back in, and overtime is overtime. I think the overtime rules should change for the NFL. I thought that for a few years. I'm glad they made the adjustments that they did. I still think they need to go to a better format to give it every offense needs to have a chance because you're just getting to those games like Deshaun Watson last week just knew they lost. Sorry, we lost the coin flip. We've lost. So yeah, I get what you're saying, but I guess just from a standpoint of reviewing this team, I still feel the same because I feel like they made the field goal and yeah, they just had one aspect of their game lose the game for them. It's still kind of they're both equal to me in a way. I get the defense and all that coming back in the memory, but it's still the same to me.
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say now because we're pissed off because the Titans lost. I think I probably would have felt relieved, but it's almost like you waiting up for your kid to come home. They finally show up at 3:30 in the morning and they're alive, but they smell like vodka. Like it's, clearly shit's been going on. And I think it would have felt like a really fake 6-0. If the Titans had snuck out a win, because that wasn't just bad defense in the first half. It was horrendous defense. It was a defense that could not get their offense back on the field to save their life. So I don't know. It's tough to say because I'm just irritated that the Titans lost.
Well, and that's the thing. You have to view it as a sense of you feel much better how the game ended than you did at halftime. Because at halftime, there's no other way to view it than look. The Titans, they're 5-0, and they beat a 4-0 Bills team that has now lost. They had lost 2 in a row. Yeah, they beat the Jets. Congratulations. We'll throw a party. We'll jump on some tables, whatever.
They didn't cover the spread.
They did not. See, exactly. They're fraud.
A loss. That's a loss. That's a freaking loss if you don't cover the spread versus the Jets.
Yeah.
The
So
Bills will remain frauds in my mind. The Titans' offensive numbers did come back down to earth this week. Tannehill, 18 of 30 for 220 yards. Henry finished under 100 rushing yards. I don't have his, there it is, 75 rushing yards and 20 carries. So, their numbers did come back to earth, honestly. But
AJ Brown, a monster, though.
Yeah,
AJ Brown had a terrific
what
game.
else
That's
about
the
AJ
highlight of this game. Yeah, you can't say enough good things about AJ Brown.
He's the only reason they were in it.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, that's why it's the only reason they were in it. I mean,
yeah, but his 73-yard touchdown was like, the Titans are dead in the water. Without that play, well, yeah, go ahead.
I got to go back and review it, but also I thought Ty Sambrailo actually had a decent game. I got to go back and review the all 22, but I was worried about him and how he's going to react. I thought he had a decent game. Dennis Kelly had more help with TJ Watt than Sambrailo did.
Dennis Kelly got whooped by
Kelly
TJ Watt.
There's one sack early in the second half that I don't think was Dennis Kelly's fault because Derrick Henry pushed TJ Watt off of him and let him have a free rush. But that doesn't. This was probably I'll know more when I review the game. This is Dennis Kelly's worst game. But Sambrailo, whatever. I thought he was okay today.
Someone in the chat said this entire show feels like a build up to me ripping off my shirt. No one wants to say that. I'm not ripping off my shirt. So before Ryan completely derailed the AJ Brown talk with his talk about the offensive line, get the hell out of here. Mute him for 30 seconds.
offensive line coach.
AJ Brown, we're not in this game if AJ Brown does not score a touchdown. And that man has hands. This is that big, nasty, fast wide receiver that the Titans fans have wanted forever. And you finally have that wide receiver. That is one of the positives I take out of week over week over week with the Titans is you finally have a big-ass wide receiver who can catch. And between him and Adam Humphries, I don't know who to give the better hands award to this week because Humphrey in the right place to catch that deflection from I almost can't even tell if it was a badly overthrown Corey Davis or if it was actually for Humphries and he was out of position. Either way, he grabbed that tip pass. But AJ Brown there towards the end of the game had a really nasty catch as well. So I'm so pleased that the Titans do have a big receiver. So let's switch to positivity. Let's take a deep breath. Let's bring it in and let's roll out our
stuff.
Can I answer this question? Can I answer this question really quick?
Yes, please do.
So we have seen Henry be a part of the 2-minute offense for the majority of the season. The Titans do a good job of like running the clock down with Henry on those drives so that when they do score, they don't give the other team a chance to take over possession. But thanks, Ryan Pringle, for letting us know we are the best.
Hold on. Just real quick, I'll let you finish, but just checking, and you guys are then like the weirdest pause. Like, I don't know where he's going at that point. So are we the worst? Glad you finished on a positive note there, Ryan Pringle from Periscope. So go ahead.
I said the best. There we go.
So they did try to go with Henry on the 2-minute offense there towards the end of the game, and they got called for a false start right before, I guess, the play happened or something. That was kind of a weird penalty situation there, and then they ended up hitting A.J. Brown on the pass to the sideline with a catch and run right afterwards.
They tried to throw it to him, too, a couple times, too, if my memory serves correct.
They tried I think it was the first screen of the game, and it was totally sniffed out and dropped for like a 3-yard loss. That was actually pretty brutal. So they tried to use Henry, and that's where the Steelers were keying.
Okay, so like I was trying to say, let's move towards positive. Let's go around the room and let's talk about the positive side of this game and the positives of moving forward, starting with you, Justin.
Well, the biggest positive is that the team...
That doesn't sound positive.
This team came back. It was crazy. Watching that second half when A.J. Brown caught that 73-yard touchdown and ran all the way to the house, and then the defense came back and got the quick 3-and-out that they needed. It was like, wow, this game's not over yet. And then they got another interception, their second of the game, and then they got a third when it was like, three-point game, the defense needs to stop, and Pittsburgh's had the ball for 7 straight minutes, and now they're in the red zone. They're probably going to make it a 6-point game and force the Titans to kick a field goal, or if they score a touchdown here, the game's freaking over. And wow, if Jayon Brown didn't have the best play of the defense's game, getting in there on Juju, sticking his hand between his hands and forcing the ball, Amani Hooker grabs it, and it was like, at that point, it was like, here we go. Ryan Tannehill's about to lead this 5th game-winning drive, And he did. He put them in position to kick a field goal, a very makeable field goal. But here's a lesson. Do not allow Gostkowski to try any field goals inside 49 yards. He is amazing 50 and out.
Are you saying the Titans should have taken some sort of penalty there?
I thought the same thing.
Outside the 50?
Yeah. Call start to make it a 51 or just take a knee on third down and call timeout or something. But like, I don't know, man.
You know, Justin, I'm proud of you. After coming outside and screaming at you for not spinning the sign correctly up on my cell phone store, you've done a good job. Robert, positive. Give me positive.
Well, it's tough to give anything more than what JG gave because he recapped the entire game there. But I did think that the second half performance from Jayon Brown was positive. He was someone, at least in our private chat, we've been roasting the entire first half and almost every week up until this week. He and Rashaan Evans have been pretty bad, except for on the goal line. So his performance in the second half was positive, especially since he was matched up against Juju for most of the second half, it seemed like.
Boring, positive.
I yield my time. I have nothing.
I knew he couldn't do it. Last week we won, and the Titans won.
No, I have some final thoughts, but I feel like it should go.
Okay. CBS cut this man's feet off. Ryan, positive.
So the positives, I don't really want to go over back anything because, like, I agree with Greenlaw completely. JG talked way too much there about the entire game, but the positive without breathing, I'm impressed. We're still alive. The positive, I covered it. Sorry I derailed, but I was just trying to point out that there's more than just one Titan that had a good game, and Tyson Burrell really did come to play. And I have to go back and see that. But I thought he picked up some late blitzes. He picked up some good things. So the positive for me is that the post Lawan era for the Titans can survive, in my opinion. I think he played a good game in the run game as well. And more importantly, this team continues to show that they're not out of any game. And there's going to be tough situations. The NFL, you have teams that match up well, and teams match up differently against each other. So the fact that they could find small adjustments and still play well is very positive to me moving forward. And I just don't think they're going to be out of any game moving forward. And that's got to be a positive. And I know it sucks that you lost, but it was better than it could have been, and it showed a lot of heart. And you were right there and gave yourself a chance to win. So kudos to the Titans for at least doing that.
Well, I'm positive that Bourne's about to be negative. So please, follow me. Throw out your last shot.
Here's my thing. It's like if you're going to come into this game and had you told me once again, I'm going to say it. I said it earlier in the show, but if you told me they were coming into this game and they were going to lose by 3 with a chance to go down and tie it or win it on the last drive, I'd take it. But they played one half of football. And if you want to be one of the elite teams in the NFL, if you want to truly be one of the elite teams, you can't do that. Cool. Go be down 10 points at halftime. That's fine. They were down 17. Doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but if anybody watched it, you would know that was a very big difference. They were lucky to be down 17. The defense didn't show up in the first half. And if you want to be a true elite team, you can't only play one half of football. And Titans fans around here have watched that for literally decades, where they want to be this constant underdog. They want to be this team that is, our backs are against the wall. We're going to step up. Because even in this game, yes, their backs were against the wall. And they're gonna power forward in the second half. They almost made a game of it. But why were they there? And that's the thing that aggravates me, is that they continue to put themselves in this situation. And yes, it is on some player execution, but they find a way to do it. You want to talk about it? They find a way to put themselves in the game. They find a way to put themselves out of the game in the first half. And they continue to find every single game to do that. If you want to be that, look, yes, they can compete with the elite teams in the NFL. But if we talk about it on Coach's Corner, we talk about it where it's, if the goal is not to win a Super Bowl, then what are you playing for? And if you can't beat the elite teams, cool, you're fun, it's exciting, but you got to step up. You can't take one half off.
I do think there's been a lot of like fluky-ish type situations that the Titans have benefited from throughout the year, obviously plus turnover differential, and they're still positive in turnover differential. But this game, those kind of fluky stuffs came back to bite them. They weren't able to capitalize on all those chances, and the Steelers just converting third down after third down has been a problem all year. Are they ever going to be able to get a stop on a third down? I mean, the first time they did it this game, it was like, wait a second. Was that real? Did they get a stop on third down? like, unbelievable. Is this a 13-3 team?
Yeah, Shazam. from Periscope. Yes, this is a 13-3 team. Is it a Super Bowl team? I don't care if you win 13, 14, 15, or 16 games if you don't win a Super Bowl.
No.
How important is Adoree Jackson? He can't be a cure-all, but like if Adoree's out there instead of Ty Smith, that Deontay Johnson play in the first quarter where he like kind of cut inside and then broke back out to the left, like that kind of play doesn't happen. The whole drive stops there. I mean, it could be a completely different game just from one player being healthy.
I'm gonna respond to that real quick. I just got to respond to something on Periscope. Ryan Pringle, they got punched in the mouth. They responded. Only concern is that the defense ... That's actually that's not a finished sentence. I don't know what you're saying. They got punched.
Thought.
How long have you ever been punched in the mouth? A punch, it lasts a couple of seconds. That cost them 30 minutes of game time. I don't want to hear that they got punched in the mouth for 30 minutes. Get out of here with that.
It was a lot of punches. It was repeated punches.
To that point, I would like to see that adjustment after maybe the second drive. That's like, oh, we need to maybe make an adjustment here, but no. But that's the problem, though, is the second drive. I think they had 3 minutes left in the second quarter. I'm exaggerating a bit.
I have to finish my thought about Adoree Jackson. Adoree Jackson is absolutely their best DB, and he will adjust some things. The problem is I feel like they have called their game scared from the rest of with the rest of their DBs, and that's fine. Ty Smith is what he is. He's a guy that comes up. He's essentially a safety playing corner, where he'll come up and he'll make some tackles. I talked about it. If he's not making the tackles like he didn't on that Deontay Smith slant that he had, Deontay Johnson, whatever.
Smith-Schuster.
There's a lot of last names in there. I just can't keep up.
At least
what
seven.
happened to Jonnu Smith today? Did he only have one catch?
I am finishing about Adoree Jackson, JG. Keep up. Adoree Jackson, like you said, is not a fix-all. Look, he is spectacular, but he's not going to fix everything. And I've been touting that. I've been touting it from the sense of when they get Adoree back, it'll change what they do. But if they're counting on him for everything, there is never a scenario. And that's the same problem with going with 3 outside linebackers every single time. When Jadeveon Clowney gets injured, all of a sudden you're down to your only 2 healthy outside linebackers have to play every single down from there on out. You cannot count on a single player for every single play, or you're setting yourself up for failure. Thank you. Let's go.
Is someone ripping their shirt off? I just want to throw out there that Brett Kern is listed on the passing sheet.
Yeah. 0 for 1. Yeah.
Yeah, Brett Kern is listed over 1 on passing.
Wesley Woodyard on Twitter was saying that was a real fake, which I do not believe.
It wasn't, because if it was a real fake, you wouldn't have had illegal man downfield on this Bo Brinkley and others, the official said.
And others.
Yeah, and Kern was real pissed on the sidelines. He threw his helmet with some sincerity. So
it brought back some VY memories a little bit.
Well, Kathy, I hope Jackson's 100% at some point. I've been hoping for the last 3 weeks. We'll see if some point he is. It's got to be sooner than later at this point, right?
Vic Beasley had a tackle for loss, Mr. Shazam,
and caused a fumble that they didn't get, but he caused it. So
how many fumbles can they not recover? There was at least 3 in this game.
Stop relying on random fumbles for turnovers.
I'm just saying that the Beasley has gone from nothing to making 2 plays. It's a step forward. Let's be. He needs to make more. Screw it. Suck.
But do you think they regret the 3 outside linebackers and having David Long inactive this game? Do you think that those mid-game injuries will be a little wake-up call for them, that they need more depth, even if it's just to be on the sideline just in case somebody gets hurt mid-game?
The problem is whenever they have some of these guys get injured, when they have their athletic guys get injured, it's just a humongous drop-off in athleticism. And that's the problem, is that they have a lot of good football players, which is fine. And I completely get where they're getting that mentality from. But when you lose your John Browns, when you lose your Jadeveon Clowneys, it's one of those is when the rest of your defense are all these just real heady players that have just been great football players. You notice it when you lose athleticism, when you only have 3 true, physical freaks out there.
Shazam, I'm not talking about the Claypool Clowney fumble. I'm talking about the fumble that Beasley caused on Connor close to the goal line in the first half.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell what you were wagging your finger at. I didn't know if
I'm comment poaching. I'm reading the comments. I'm sorry.
I didn't know if you were disagreeing or like your children are running around with a half gallon of
Yeah, that
mayonnaise.
could be happening too. I hear him downstairs. Max wants people to rip shirts off. I mean, God dang it. All right. That's enough of that.
Okay, so we've lost Bourne. He's just given up.
He's here. He's here. He's taking.
I am here.
He's-
I'm not doing anything.
He's not doing anything at all.
Okay, that's creepy. Max has asked 4 times for someone to take their shirt off. This is about to turn into an OnlyFans. This is not going to happen.
If
No
he's
one is taking clothing off.
dipping,
Yeah, no kidding.
Unless you want to start paying money, and then we can flip that feed over. All right. On that note, the Titans are playing the Bengals next week at noon on CBS because it's the only time slot that the Titans ever end up in.
Barring a COVID reschedule.
Yeah, barring a COVID reschedule.
Which,
So
I mean,
I was trying to shift towards positivity, and you all have completely derailed this. So
Where was Jonnu freaking Smith, bro?
you're asking like idiots have answers.
Among other things.
I have no idea where Tony Smith was.
You wanna
Find
talk
that out
about
for us.
the Bengals?
Write an article about it.
we're going to talk about the Bengals. All right. So the Bengals, it's one of those, again, we talk about where it's one of those, you have to be able to put this behind you. The Bengals, and it's you got to go out and take care of business. You get back to the running game. They tried to get back into this. This man is dying on the screen right here. I feel like we got to take him off. Like I don't know. Take this man off screen.
I can't because it cuts your audio.
You're stuck with
That may be for the best anyways. So when you get to the Bengals, they don't do anything spectacular. AJ Green is this idea of himself 10 years ago. John Ross is a bust of a wide receiver, although I would also contemplate trading for him for the Titans if it were me, because they need more speed on offense. But at the same time, get back to what you do. They play up, so I'll give them that. But at the same time, at no point or fashion should you even be in a game with the Bengals. The Bengals are trying to rebuild. If the Titans are playing for a Super Bowl, this should be something where you get straight down to basics. You go up and block the man, put your face mask on a face mask, and go block the dude in front of you and just pound the rock, and you should be able to win that game. If the Bengals go in there and put up 30 points, then we are right back to
I don't see any reason why the Bengals wouldn't put up 30 points. Joe Burrow's playing great. They just put up 30 points on the Colts.
Because you want to win the Super Bowl. That's why.
But I haven't seen any reason to believe that this defense will not allow Joe Burrow and the Bengals to put up 30 points on them. I mean, the offense is going to have to come to play again. Luckily, the Bengals run defense is garbage, so hopefully Derrick Henry can just carry the team to victory again. But
also, the Bengals have one of the worst offensive lines in football. So if you're going to make an impact on the defensive line, this is going to be the game for it.
Burrow is the first rookie quarterback in NFL history with 400-plus passing yards, 3 TDs, and a rushing touchdown in a single game.
I would like to
He's
point out
amazing. He's so
right
amazing.
here, give that up. You wanted to draft John Ross. I did not. I wanted to draft Mike Williams. I am still team Mike Williams. I think that would have been the right pick. However,
I can confirm we were both Mike
I
Williams.
just wanted to point that out.
gross.
The Bengals, yes,
Gross.
they put up points. Here's the thing, and we didn't really touch on the fact that the Titans did not get sacks on Roethlisberger. That's maybe the
Zero.
big thing. They got 0 sacks on Roethlisberger, who is a guy that is not running around. I will give the Steelers credit. They get the ball out faster than any team in the NFL. So
Yeah,
that's
he's leading the league.
absolutely something that you need to put into account for. And I think they did a decent job getting pressure, but you would have liked to have seen them get 1 or 2 pressures or 1 or 2 sacks. I apologize. Burrow is one of those you want to go into it again. I feel like they're going to be in their comfort zone. They can put the shell defense where they're going to play everything back, don't give up a deep ball, and make Burrow take what the defense gives them, because young quarterbacks want to throw that ball deep. That's what they want to do. So take that away from them, go in there and then pound the rock, get that win, get back right back to it, and be 6-1.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to do it for us today. Appreciate you tuning in as always. BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Come check us out for articles, podcasts, more content like this. No one is ripping their shirt off unless we make announcements otherwise. Titans next week at Cincinnati, Sunday at noon on CBS. We will be here after, hopefully not pissed off, fully clothed. You all have a good day.